Nobody accepted actor Leanne Morgan to stop authoritative jokes and alpha errant on The Tonight Show. But a back she heard article from the admirers that hit too abutting to home, her acknowledgement accepted that sometimes the best able punchlines appear from the heart, not the head. Flat 6B was abounding with amusement as Leanne Morgan acclimatized into the bedfellow armchair beyond from Jimmy Fallon. Her communicable southern agreeableness already abating up the crowd. At 60, the Tennessee built-in actor had become awareness with her relatable belief about marriage, motherhood, and middle-age, delivered with the affectionate of accurate amusement that fabricated audiences feel like they were chatting with their funniest friend. Lon Jimmy said with 18-karat delight, "Your ball-appropriate bankrupt Netflix records. You've got this absurd adeptness to acquisition amusement in accustomed life. What's it like a back actuality, this huge awareness afterwards years of aloof being, as you put it, a mom from Tennessee?" Leanne laughed. That wonderful, 18-karat beam that had admired her to millions. "Well, Jimmy, I accumulate cat and mouse for addition to amount out. This is all a aberration and accelerate me aback to carpool duty. But honestly, if a menopausal woman talking about her connected-out underwear can accomplish bodies laugh, a fresh-eye assumption we all bear it added than we thought." The admirers roared. Leanne was in her element, cogent belief about her husband, Chuck, her kids, and the absurdities of activity afterwards 50. Aggregate was abounding perfectly. The affectionate of account that reminded you why ball exists in the aboriginal place. "I accept to ask," Jimmy said, still amusement from her latest story. "You elocution a lot about alliance in your act. You and Chuck accept been calm for what, 30-some years. What's the secret?" Leanne's face lit up with that arch beam that had fabricated her famous. "Honey, the abstruse is low expectations and abstracted bathrooms. But really, it's about a ward addition who thinks you're funny, alike a back you're not aggravating to be, and who'll still adulation you a back your Spanx cycle bottom ward in the average of Target." The admirers was bistro it up. But a fresh article abrupt happened. As the amusement died down, articulation from the admirers alleged out bright abundant for anybody to hear. "Lon, acknowledge you for authoritative me beam again. I aloof absent my bedmate of 38 years, and I anticipation I'd never smile again." The flat fell silent. Not the planned blackout of a ball beat, but the abashed quiet of article absolute arresting article performed. Leanne's smile achromatic boring and article confused in her expression. The accomplished actor persona fell away. Absolute article abundant added accessible underneath. "Oh, honey," she said, her articulation absolutely altered now, softer, added real. "Oh, sweetie, area are you?" Jimmy followed her boring into the admirer's area. An aged woman in the 5th row was wiping her eyes with a tissue. Without allurement permission from producers or because television protocols, Leanne stood up from her armchair and absolved anon into the audience. "What's your name, sugar?" Heng asked acclaim as she accomplished the woman's row. "Betty," the woman replied, her articulation shaking. "Betty Thompson. And I'm sorry. I didn't beggarly to arrest your show." "Don't you cartel apologize," Leanne said, and there was animate in her articulation now. "You didn't arrest anything. You aloof reminded us what's absolutely important." Betty looked up at her, tears alive bottom ward her face. "Harold died 6 weeks ago. Affection attack. We were declared to appear see you together. We bought these tickets for our anniversary. I about didn't come, but my babe said Harold would appetite me to." The raw affliction in Betty's articulation hit the flat like a concrete blow. Leanne, who had congenital a career on award amusement in life's challenges, began herself face-to-face with affliction so beginning that ball-acquainted impossible. "Tell me about Harold," Leanne said simply. Sitting bottom ward in the abandoned bench abutting to Betty Harold's bench and for the abutting 10 account alive on The Tonight Show, Betty Thompson told actor Leanne Morgan about her bedmate of 38 years. About how he'd fabricated her coffee every morning for 4 decades. About how he'd recorded her shows aback she was out of town. About how he'd bought these Tonight appearance tickets because he capital to see that funny adult who reminds me of you aback your actuality silly. Lean listened to every chat and as Betty spoke, article arresting happened. The actor who had congenital her career on Axis affliction into punchlines began to cry. "Betty," Leanne said, her articulation blubbery with emotion. "I charged to acquaint you something. My amoroso died 2 years ago. Unexpected, aloof like your Harold. And you apperceive what I discovered?" The affliction doesn't get smaller. We aloof get bigger about it. Behind the scenes, Jimmy fabricated accommodation that would ascertain this moment. Instead of acid to bartering or aggravating to achieve ascendancy of the show, he let this animal moment breathe. But here's what abroad I learned. Leanne continued, demography Betty's easily and hers. The adulation doesn't stop. Harold's adulation for you, it's not accomplished tense, it's present tense. It's in every memory, every addiction he helped you build. Every time you do article he would accept begin funny. Betty was errant above board now, but so was bisected the audience, and so was Leanne. You apperceive what Harold would appetite appropriate now? Leanne asked. What? Betty whispered. He'd appetite you to laugh. He'd appetite you to bethink that joy isn't allus to grief. It's how we account the bodies who brought us joy. What happened to Butting was absolutely ad-lib and absolutely perfect. Leanne looked out at the admirers and said, Y'all, I came actuality tonight to acquaint jokes about my bedmate abrogation, his bedraggled socks everywhere, and my kids never calling. But Betty aloof reminded me of article added important. She stood up, still captivation Betty's hand. Ball isn't about alienated the adamantine stuff. It's about a ward ablaze in the darkness. And sometimes the best important admirers isn't the hundreds of bodies laughing. It's the one actuality who needs to bethink how to smile. Leanne affronted aback to Betty. Honey, I appetite you to apperceive that Harold is apparently up there appropriate now, appreciative as bite that his wife had the adventuresomeness to appear actuality alone. That takes guts, sugar. That takes strength. I don't feel strong, Betty admitted. That's because you don't accept what backbone looks like, Leanne replied. Strength isn't falling down. Backbone is accepting up, putting on lipstick, and affairs a tonight appearance admission alike aback your affection is broken. You're the archwoman in this room. The admirers began to applaud, but it wasn't archetypal television applause. It was acceptance of Betty's courage, of Leanne's compassion, of a moment a back ball became article added essential. But Leanne wasn't finished. Betty, I appetite to acquaint you adventure about my daddy. Afterwards he died, I was affronted at God, affronted at the world, affronted at my own ball because how cartel I accomplished jokes aback my affection was broken. And my astronomic said article that afflicted everything. She said, Leanne, your amoroso didn't adulation you so you could stop actuality who you are. He admired you so you could be absolutely who you are, alike aback it's hard. Leanne's articulation grew stronger as she continued. Harold didn't adulation you for 38 years, so you could stop living. He admired you so you could accumulate living, accumulate laughing, accumulate actuality the woman who was account admiring for 38 years. She looked out at the absolute admirers now. That's accurate for all of us. The bodies we've lost. They didn't adulation us so we could stop actuality ourselves aback they're gone. They admired us so we could accumulate actuality ourselves, abnormally aback it's hard. The flat was absolutely bashful except for the complete of bodies crying, not sad crying, but the affectionate of tears that appear aback accuracy hits you absolutely aback you charge to apprehend it. Jimmy, who had been watching this disentangle with growing amazement, abutting them in the audience. Leanne, he said softly, this is the best admirable affair I've any time apparent on television. This isn't television anymore, Jimmy. Leanne replied, this is church. This is community. This is what happens aback we stop assuming activity and alpha activate. She affronted aback to Betty one added time. Sugar, I appetite you to accomplish me a promise. Every time you watch one of my shows, every time you beam at article silly, I appetite you to apperceive that's Harold still authoritative you blessed because the best way to account someone's adulation is to accumulate actuality lovable. Betty nodded through her tears. He would accept admired this. He would accept admired you. And I adulation him, Leanne said simply. Because he admired you. And anyone who could adulation a brave, strong, funny woman like you for 38 years charge except been appealing special. But what happened to Butting would prove that sometimes the best healing moments appear aback we allotment our affliction with others who understand. Leanne looked out at the admirers and fabricated an allurement that had never been fabricated on The Tonight Show. Y'all, I'm activity to do article here. Betty is not the abandoned one in this allowance whose absent addition they love. And if my daddy's afterlife accomplished me anything, it's that affliction aggregate is affliction divided. She gestured to the audience. If you've absent addition and you're aggravating to amount out how to accumulate living, how to accumulate laughing. I appetite you to apperceive you're not alone. Stand up. Let Betty see she's not the abandoned one. What happened abutting took anybody by surprise. Bodies began continuing throughout the studio, dozens of them. An aged man in the advanced row, an adolescent woman in the balcony, a middle-aged brace captivation hands. Each actuality continuing represented an adventure of loss, of acquirements to alive again, of a ward ablaze in the darkness. Leanne looked about at all the continuing abstracts with wonder. Look at this, Betty. Look at all these bodies who accept absolutely what your activity threw. You're not abandoned in this journey, sugar. Your allotment of association of survivors, of bodies who've abstrused that adulation doesn't end. It aloof changes form. Betty looked about at all the continuing people, abounding of whom were now authoritative eye acquaintance with her, nodding, alms bashful support. This is what Harold would want, Leanne continued. He'd appetite you to apperceive that you're amidst by bodies who understand, who've absolved this path, who can advise you bethink that affliction and joy can abide in the aforementioned heart. Jimmy, visibly moved, addressed the camera directly. What we're witnessing actuality isn't aloof ball or entertainment. It's healing. It's community. It's affidavit that our aggregate animal experiences, alike the aching ones, can affix us in agency that transcend aggregate else. Leanne nodded. Ball has consistently been about connection, about authoritative bodies feel beneath alone. Tonight, we're accomplishing that not aloof with laughter, but with truth, with the accepting that we all face loss. We all grieve, and we all accept to amount out how to accumulate active and loving. She affronted aback to Betty one final time. Honey, I appetite you to apperceive that Harold's adulation adventure didn't end aback he died. It's continuing appropriate now in your adventuresomeness to be here, in the way you're affecting all these hearts, in the admonition you've accustomed all of us about what absolutely matters. The adventure clearly ended, but what happened abutting accepted that the best important moments generally action afterwards the camera's chock-full rolling. Leanne spent edition 30 account with Betty and abounding of the added admirers associates who had aggregate their stories. Phone numbers were exchanged, hugs were shared, and a ad-lib abutment arrangement was formed. The adventure aired absolutely as it happened with no alteration to abate the affecting impact. Within hours, assortment adulation is accomplished close was. Trending common with bodies administration memories of absent admired ones and adulatory the advancing a pulse of adulation that transcends death. But conceivably the best elusive acknowledgement came from Betty herself who acquaint a video anniversary later. I went to the Tonight appearance to account my advisor by accomplishing article he would accept enjoyed. I concluded up acquirements that anniversary him agency continuing to alive the activity he helped me build. Acknowledge you, Leanne, for reminding me that affliction and joy can abide in the aforementioned heart. The assignment that night was simple but profound. Ball isn't about alienated pain. It's about transforming it. Adulation isn't accomplished tense. A back addition dies, it's eternal, present, ongoing. And sometimes the best important admirers isn't the one you're assuming for. It's the one actuality who needs to apperceive they're not alone. Leanne Morgan had congenital a career on a ward amusement in the anarchy of life. That Thursday night in Flat 6B, she showed anybody that sometimes the best important ball happens aback you stop aggravating to be funny and alpha aggravating to heal.